Chill here with Sirius Dallas Moon. This is Moon Hour. And the moon is 26 degrees Capricorn in the second house, and at 17 degrees Sagittarius. Midheaven 1 degrees Libra. Venus 5 degrees Pisces. Squaring Lilith here. And applying to Rahu in Pisces. Now, I ended the previous episode, with discussion of the Renaissance, and it gives an historical perspective. Okay, when do we have Renaissance periods? When we have outer planets in Taurus, and particularly Neptune is the holistic meaning of the art. Uranus in Taurus, okay, definitely gave us Renaissance of the arts, liberation of the life energy around fertility, creativity, Venus themes. To some degree, one would say Libra, but Venus is the embodiment. And I would like to speak from as philosophy of science. Okay, when I first opened the Spirit of Matter on YouTube, there was a video that I made, one of the first videos before I did astrology, that I said, do science like Da Vinci. This sparked a wave of scare amongst people. Yes, Da Vinci was cloned. Yes, Da Vinci was molested. Maybe Da Vinci probably would have been on Epstein list. But why did it scare people? Because Da Vinci was both channeling and observing. And he was not channeling like the church. He was sovereign creator. Do I agree with everything he did? No. He was painting the portrait, unfinished portrait of commoners, common women, looking into the camera, looking into directly. He made baronets imitate the commoner woman. He was making innovations in war, innovations in art, with his unfinished paintings. Coding his work by writing was basically with the opposite. He mastered the skill of writing with the opposite. Known for centuries, this is Neptune. Yet I think something was, I think Aries was on 0 degree Aquarius. He was the foundation for both channeling and modern science, discerning. Yes, channeling, yes, connecting, but not by the merit of the church. Medici's funded Da Vinci, Galileo, and the Pope that argued with both. He was looking into the depths of people, actually observing dead bodies, which were plenty at the time. Painting the actual body, not what God says. And Uranus is still in Taurus, but we don't have more than 15 years before another outer planet, Neptune, ingresses into Taurus. How do we treat artists? Uranus was asking the question, how do we treat artists, reminding us that Adolf Hitler was an artist. Neptune is not like Uranus. How would we want the next Da Vinci to grow? This is why all these topics are coming right now. Nobody can understand art that is of divine creation when they live in a culture with forced marriage and forced births. My mother, also my parents, have years until they brought me. And they insisted on natural birth. Why? Because we're Jungbloods. And in the lineage, I believe there is cloning. I'm not saying they were perfect. Not at all. But it was foundation to something that is antithetical. Because it was anchoring in something. And I can attest the things that my mother had to hear from her daughter, including asking her, why did you bring me to life? Because of this environment. That is rape, that is trafficking, that is forced marriage, that is forced conversion to religion. Because I paid attention. 2007, yeah, a screenwriting that I did with the director. The movie was winning number one place, LA Film Festival. No money, but definitely important achievement. And then I was tortured and ritually abused by the ceremonies that they did both for the Epstein and for the Madeleine in Germany, in Israel, in many places. They did such ceremonies at the Red Shoes organizations or whatnot. And I saw people clap to the broken soul of the artist. I saw why Kurt Cobain killed himself, or how it was easy to make it believe that he killed himself. It was murder. It's societal murder. I saw how artists suffered because I got appreciated. My art got appreciated. My screenwriting, my singing. But my soul was murdered. And why? Because I argued and said, no, we need to create out of love. Not just create when it's pain. What is Renaissance if not creating out of love? Why is it art that stood the test of centuries? Yeah, Leonardo da Vinci was in very much pain. But basically was telling, what it's telling us is that if we are going to do the same with the cause pain to people and then harvest their art and money launder it with trafficking for oligarchs to make wars and rape, it's better not to paint. And this is where many people can die that they could have been great artists. This is in fact the real authentic 27 Club, not the ritual. It's a societal murder. Sense of self is important to fertility and creation. This is why Neptune in Aries, a lot of those cult-like societies will die. We're only 15 years from the Renaissance, from another outer planet in a Venus sign. This is why all the way in which artists will live in all of those things, they're all very connected. When we have Saturn in Pisces, Pisces is also a sign of artists. We had Neptune in Pisces since 2012. But Taurus is a more physical sign. Pisces is definitely the poet, the artist, mythical music, and so on. I think we've seen that more in people channeling, manifesting, connecting to the spirit realm. But Taurus is basically denoting of, right now we have Venus in Pisces, but Taurus is basically the materialization of creation. People born are now still with Uranus in Taurus. The Uranus square is going to be a crisis about art, and it's going to square from Leo. And the crisis will be with performance and the monarchy. It could be dealing with the patronage. I was born Uranus in Sagittarius. My Uranus square was in Pisces. And I had this crisis with art because of ritual abuse. And Jupiter is spouse, so there was an attempt to do forced marriage or forced. I did not even get that because I'm so far from religion. Only today, now when I'm 41, I understand that that was all connected because I didn't understand. It looked like psychic attacks, and I'm like, why religion? I'm not religious. Why? In fact, it was trauma in our family because my biological father was secular, and the entire village, which was before Bnei Brak, it was soldiers that came back from Armenian made families, and then it became religious. And by the way, now the city where I lived, Arad, also became like that. and it was artist city. My parents, they were thinking to move there years ago. When I lived there with my mom last time before I went to university, then it was this ritual. They were already only beginning to become religious. Only one neighborhood was Chalamish, was religious, Orthodox. Later, they bought recently the mall and they removed all pictures of women, like Taliban. You see that such city will be concentration camp. What can I say? How do they have the money to buy? Because they do ritual abuse. They make people believe that they need to murder, that they need to rape, that they need to torture, so that they will, so that this is like sacrifice, and then that they have real estate. Well, it's actually, let's say, a child is born, they take it, they laugh energy, they rape the child, so the child authentically doesn't feel that they are creative, and then they tell the child, you kill this, you kill that, you kill that, you have a big mansion. Now the child identifies that that big mansion or that lifestyle or that, I don't know what Annika Lucas mentioned, Côte d'Azur, okay, that those things are the places where the child was supposed to live. That this is their authentic wealth, it's their energy, it's in their life energy, so they want it. But because of the ritual abuse, they're disconnected and they believe that actually have to do all these things. And because it's children and they don't, it's basically like death camp. And then the people, 222, mediumship. 22 is actually very important to the lineages that had this. Um, and then the families that traffic or that target the people that made the world like this, the children suffer. It's up to the families so that the children will not have to grow like this, so that the children will not have to grow to trauma bonds, so that they will not have to grow to rape, so that they can create from love and knowing that they are loved. Because trauma bond, even if the family does it, a child doesn't know that they are loved. Or they are loved in a way that is not allowing child to be. And then these children very susceptible. Okay, we could not understand Da Vinci, not his art, not his science, if we did not challenge the church's monopoly, at least somewhat. And when we do, we understand that artists should not be creating out of murdered souls, that they should not be castrated and raped to begin with. Why was it done to artists? Because artists are channeling the threads of society. They express it to non-verbal way. Even when they speak, they express it to non-verbal way. Okay, what is writing, even if it's not poetry? And the attempt to control the frequencies and enslave humanity, they are causing those sufferings to artists and to people in general. Does it not affect the children of the families that do that? Of course it does. But not only them, it affects the entire vocation of the art. And if we look at Da Vinci, we already have Neptune in Aries. When it will be in Taurus, we will understand for sure medicine, art, channeling, observation, and thinking of sovereignty, whether it's by defense or technology, are one and the same. We cannot escape this truth. Pluto and Aquarius, a lot of people are required to participate in war or are affected by war. Then they have right to think about war, to come up with their own perception. If they are affected by war, they have the right and they have a say. Perpetuating trauma and all kinds of conflicts, the core of it, all extortion cults. And again, it's not about blame and shame. Is Epstein to blame that he was born into that dumb fuckery cult that he was born into? His niece's father was doing that to children, to infants. Is he to blame that he was born there? That he didn't have family? Ra in the fourth house. Me and my mother have Ra in the fourth house. Both of us in wrong society could become Epstein. My mother insisted on natural birth, which is countering. And I speak about all these things that I speak about. Even when there are ritual abuse survivors. Yes. And they say, oh, but these people, they chose like that. I say, let's listen to your own story. You say that at 11 years old you chose? After being tortured? And then in the beginning you chose yes? Because you were told you were respected, and then what? You saw what it entails and you didn't want. Like all those children. Alandra Mantok. Those that successfully made it out, they say yes when you want out and something comes to help. What about those that didn't have that? They were left out when the spiritual weird experiences were happening to their persecutors. Very, very difficult question to deal with. I also saw people who were ritually abused. They testified everything, then they tortured them once. Show up with his Nike thing. Torture them twice. Begin to be one with the perpetrator and begin to become offender. And then what happens? They try to blame shift. They rape and they try to blame shift Or did they rape in the astral? Or they tried to justify rape? Because the tortured saw that they will be traffickers. And then what they say, when these people come out against them and say, listen, if you're gonna go like this, what's gonna happen? They're gonna look for they use the last name and they say for the death list. They say, are you mad? Ah, now they're trying to tag the person that goes against rape as if they are. Then suddenly you have to defend yourself from someone that a minute ago was ritual abuse survivor. Why? Because in the beginning they didn't go against trafficking. And the minute that they began to heal, they tortured them again. And then they became what? One with the offender. This is where assassination actually happens. Political assassination. Yes, it does. Yes, it's that moment. It's that moment because the sense of self is so imbued. Why do they do that? I will tell you why do they do that. Because they become one with the offender. Basically, they are able to track if there's, let's say, politician and ritual abuse survivor. Okay, so the ritual abuse survivor begins to be one with the politician, and then they can track where the politician is because they're one. Okay, and they move. They have rapport. They move as one. They this as one, and then boom. That's how they actually commit to, through mind control, political assassination. Again, not when they forgive the offender, not when they go against the offender, when they are tortured to lack of sense of self, and then they become also trafficker, they become also, and then the assassin. And they cannot see, why they cannot see properly? Because they were tortured. Which proves that they are survived, that they went through ritual abuse. They're not imagining, but they cannot anymore speak against, because what happens after they healed? Oh, boom, the name of the offender come out. Now they were tortured. It's a part of the healing. It comes out without the person even wanting to. They need to take it out of the system. Because this self-assertion, Mars rules names. And even when they say the name, they say, yeah, that offender, they were also ritually abused. Of course. So what with the families that do that, the target people, the traffic people? They try to forcibly marry people, which is rape, is trafficking. They try to forcibly make people parents, which is the worst thing that can happen for children. And the reason they control the media or art, science, and so on is exactly because when people begin to remember, begin to sovereign up, they begin to do the actual art, this creation out of love, do the actual science, the true cohesion. It's not looking at all like race-based intelligence, religion, politique, defense looking. Not at all. And they understand the architecture doesn't support life, the structures don't support life, all these things. I saw a lady that says the birth giving process in hospital. I'm not talking about people that have the resources, they hire this, they hire that, and so on and so forth. Um, but what normal is ritual humiliation that's causing trauma to the baby. Whether it's the position of birth or sometimes people need also medical interference. It's not it can save more lives, but for the most of the ritual, because the when the parents giving birth, and I say the parents because the other parents, they usually are sensitive to that a lot, so much so that they can even feel it on their body. And by the way, also people around them. Um, of course, the person is actually physically given birth, but it does affect everyone. And it's true, not all birth can be orgasmic birth. I'm not, when I talk about these things, I talk about these things so that people will understand the connection of what the society, but also the structure of what something is designed to do. The working sector, is it designed to provide for the living? Art and media, is it designed to express the spirit of the time in a way that supports the living? Why, when Venus in Venus hour, Mercury night, when Venus exalted in Pisces, applying to conjoin Rahu, are the rituals trying to coerce the sanity and the heart and the love in the heart of people? Only because they try to keep people from seeing Venus exalted in Pisces with Rahu. People make talismans on these days. When Venus just ingressed to Pisces, then immediately I saw the energy. It was a Friday, uh, and on that Friday I saw the energy, and what I got was, beware, it is a joy to be a woman. Because Venus is in the sign of traveling, but traveling is Piscean, not necessarily only physical traveling. And how it was bringing the antidote to the spirit of the time. And the moon was in Sagittarius. Then the fifth degree, moon although was Capricorn. I'm actually wearing something that I consecrated, was the importance of the art. Because fifth degree is royal degree, but it's also the degree of artists. And I had the urge to create something artistic, to paint again, to use oil colors, even if it's something that was, I had a bamboo plate that I used and cleaned, and then it was dry, and then I was painting on that. The colors of truth, that is blue, and the color green, that is Venus. And the urge to paint, almost like it was, almost like my life depended on it. The urge to create. And now I'm speaking, I think this is the effect of this talisman still. Because it's negating the rituals that they do on the people that have been prepared for the Renaissance. Renaissance, if they control the art, it is the non-verbal way to the psyche of the people, then get people addicted. But this is not what art is about. It's not about getting people addicted. It's about an embodied, all-encompassing experience of being alive and being happy. Can only happen in zero rape society. Is our spirituality supportive of fertile creation and fertility? You know that there are some in those cults. They're not Jews. They call themselves Jews, but it's not a religion. Maybe it's Judaism religion, but it's the Judaism that says man and women, he made them. And they say they cannot hear women singing. If they cannot hear women singing, they cannot hear women having orgasmic birth, they cannot hear women expressing herself. They cannot have women artists. They cannot align with their life energy in such a way that does not violate women. They believe that they are persecuted by the voice of woman. Woman is not siren, in the sense that she's not there to divert men away from their sense of self. Because they were born by forced marriages to trafficked women, and even adult women, they torture to bring person to child state, and then they traffic. Which means this is why they die in dead camps. Because they cannot hear a woman expressing herself. There is no continuation for that. Think about how Mary Magdalene was exiled from Christianity. She was the spouse of Jesus. She was the mother of his child. Mary was wed as child wedding. She was raped as girl, and they said, didn't have father, gave birth to Messiah. This is why people go secular. Where do they have church the most? In Italy. Because it's the mafia. If you go to Bnei Brak, a religious Orthodox Jewish city, you cannot find 10 people for minyan, for prayer. Why? Because the Jew, but from this stream, the Jew from this. So where do they have Jews the most? In the most Orthodox, in the most Orthodox religion. Why? Because it's competing extortion codes. Yes, it is. It's like different mafia families. They kill each other. I saw even advertisement. It was this rabbi, and he was trying to say what the ladies who run away from the families, they're homeless. Why? Because they rape them in the families. They forcibly with them is rape. And they traffic them and ritually abuse also the boys. And he would try to do something about this, then it says to provide food and shelter to these women. I don't know if he traffics them or not. Why? Because they ran away from the family. They don't want to be with such traffickers. This is youth at risk. And in the places where the youth at risk, they also do these rituals. So they kill themselves by the masses. Again, usually if people make ritual or people make abuse, I wake up, I see what is the chart because they do astrological election. Why do they pick Venus and Rahu? Oh, because the sign of Jupiter. Why do they pick Jupiter? Jupiter is religion. But why Venus and Rahu? Oh, because people are... Venus Rahu is very good for talismanic election. Over what? Over relations, art, benevolence. They don't want people to make love. They want people to rape each other and be enslaved. So they work very, very hard to wake up, to try to harm people's sanity, to harm people's heart, to make them not believe in love. So that they will tell them, oh, choose God, God will give you divine and this, divine and that. And then what about the sex? They can't, in Judaism, the Orthodoxy, they don't even allow people to self-pleasure. Until that detail, they try to have control over the people. Mormons, the same. Islam, I don't even want to talk about this. It's not Mecca, it's Makkah. It's, you know what? When they tried to abolish child weddings in Somalia, they said, we go by Islam, we go by Islam. 60, 70 years old men, marrying 12 years old. In the open. Not even in secret societies. Now, here's the problem. Those that do that in secret societies, like the Jews, like the, Epstein's niece, she said, but we were, you're not Jews, but outside practicing. Then later everybody hates the Jews. I said, well, here is the thing. Because most of them already infiltrated and people did not go against rape, then they're mostly right. But usually their religion does that as well. If they hate for child weddings and for trafficking and for usury, then they're not wrong. But it's not like they don't do that. Otherwise, people would convert. People would try to get out of Judaism to convert. This is why in Hebrew say Yotzim B'Shelah, they basically come out of these places, even they sleep in the street, just not to be in those families because there's such violence. But then they try to make the street not safe. They try to course Venus 5 degrees because this is the Venus of the artistic expression. The singing woman. In such societies, people, when they create, they try to take a decoration to make it work again. They do all those weird things that I cannot even begin to describe how terrible is life in such societies. And although it does move, wasn't said for nothing. Da Vinci was raped as apprentice. Okay, because for patronage he already went to the ladies. And they adored the delicate look of him like a girl. He was looking like a girl. And then unfortunately he developed the same aesthetics and inclinations. It's not about homosexuality. But because of that, homosexuality is forever linked with those things. Because we never really abolished rape, then there cannot be LGBTQ rights. They can only know authentic sexuality when we're not raped. For extortion cult, they want the person to be able to sleep with anything because then they have more opportunities to extort. You want LGBTQ rights, abolish rape and trafficking and ritual abuse and forced marriage. Let alone human trafficking. And the dependency on the real estate, on the land, on vocation. This is already Chiron Aries. Moon sextiles Uranus. This is why I have this Eureka around all this connection and the topic with the Renaissance. But you see, they have no reason. It was Venus hour. They had no reason to do such rituals. The Venus hour. And Saturn is even not in Pisces. Mercury in night, Mercury in Pisces. No reason. Why? Because somebody was beginning to create, because somebody was beginning to express, because somebody was beginning to live, because somebody was beginning to put themselves out there to have the cornerstone. Then they try to harm that. Just like that person that was ritual abuse survivor suddenly began to heal, boom, tortured again, began to attack me, to threaten my life. And to tell me that I'm the bad person because I go against rape, because I go against trafficking, because I don't let them get away with just defying rape and trafficking. Because I emphasize this point and they try to say there's no such thing as rape, people, there is such thing. You want to torture, now you speak like that. And people that know me know it's not. I don't just come up and I say, "Wait, is it torture? Did they use this? Did they use that? Did they torture you? Take your energy? Did they?" And I even say if somebody felt something from my energy when I was tortured, then I believe them, and so on and so forth. I don't. How should I say that? Blame shift or not address with issues and not at all. Now those things they expose. Everything comes to the light because all of the big picture of what were these things, it all comes to the light. And even people are recovering, they need to sort the wheat from the muck. It takes time. Hans Medema, he saved his wife. Then he called her whore. Why she denied him sex? She did not deny him sex, she was raped. How do you expect? And if you think somebody owes you sex, and it was forced wedding, neither of them wanted to marry one another. So if you think somebody owes you sex, then you think in rapist mindset. You took your wife out of this setting. And what happens to all the societies that arrange these things? One cult kills another cult. They begin to kill each other. How did the crime organization end around the cities in Israel? They killed each other. Because the police was afraid to do something. Everybody was, and then they began to kill each other. That's it. People were waking to gunshots. Now, the people that are in those mafias, they wear masks of different people. They come wear mask of this person, that person. How many of us were seen in various places at the same time? Because a person comes, they wear a mask. Okay? Then they try to identify this person, identify that person. They get a person that's similar to this person, they shoot. And now also they have to sacrifice. So they have to murder. Yes. But what the Bohemian Grove, I don't know what. Not really Bohemian. Jonathan Geffen spoke about it. He said in those circles in Café Cassit, for there was like Bohemian Grove. And he said that with this and that, there were also murders. He literally said, he said it everything. He said all of these 60s, happy 60s, this, 70s, all rape. This was not free love. That Neil Young song said the city, I knew a man who wouldn't go back to work because the hippies tore down everything that he was fighting for. It sounds like satire. It's not satire. Maybe for him it was satire, because probably had to be a part of it. But but it's not satire, because they were all raping one another in rituals and sacrificing. Every time person tries to create, they try to target them. Now, of course, every time we create or launch, or I'm not even talking about babies. Of course, all the things come to light to be addressed that were relevant to the next phase of creation. Okay, children born Saturn in Pisces, um, they deal with industrial, forced labor, forced marriage, And it's going to arrive through something. One of the people in the family, one of the people in here, one